welcome to the RotoWire Prospect Podcast, sponsored by WinBet. I'm Clay Link here with RotoWire.com's lead prospect analyst, James Anderson. James, good to be back with you. I'm just coming off some time off. Enjoyed that. How are you, man? By the way, thanks for handling main event Fab for us last weekend.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're now the proud stashers of Andres Jimenez, who was our original fifth-round target. So look out for that.
Tani's doing his best to carry us, but I don't know if that team's going to be able to get over the hump. We're going to keep our foot on the gas pedal, though, and hopefully get over that hump. I drove up to Minneapolis, enjoyed some time off. I'm a fan of bad movies, James, and I saw one of the best bad movies I've ever seen. Money Plane.
Oh, man.
A casino, high-stakes casino heist in the sky, though.
Nice.
Starring Kelsey Grammer. Apparently, Kelsey Grammer was on set for like an hour. I was reading a little about it. He was just mailing it in completely.
Nice.
When you think Kelsey Grammer, you think mob boss, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I enjoy some bad movies every now and then. Of course, we will be picking our latest walk-up songs, but you kind of had in mind just a mailbag day for today, right?
Yeah, I think next week will probably be the big draft preview show, and then this week I just figured this would be a nice way to just answer a lot of questions in a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, we got a ton here, and so we'll get going here shortly and try to get through all of them. I think we should be able to, but it may be maybe pushing it a little bit. By the way, how did your thing go with Prospects Live last weekend, drafting for the Brewers?
Oh, man, that was couldn't have gone much better, man. That was such a good time, and those guys obviously do a fantastic job. I was between Gavin Williams and Peyton Stovall at number 15. Gavin Williams is one of my favorite pitchers in the class out of East Carolina, and Stovall is probably my fourth favorite high school hitter in the class. And Williams was the guy that I went with at 15, and then Stovall was there at 33. So I got the top two guys I was eyeing up at 15 with my first two picks, and got Robert Gasser, interesting lefty, with my last pick. So couldn't have gone much better.
Nice. You were playing it pretty close to the vest last week, and I'm glad you got the guys you wanted. You didn't tip your hand, and I know people can go back and can check that out on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I've already watched most of it. I was kind of going back and forth between that and the Bucks game at the time, but yeah, I mean those guys did a great job. Joe Doyle.
Check that out and see kind of how it. Well, I need to, for one, get more familiar with this upcoming draft class, but also, once the draft's actually in the books, maybe seeing how things compare. And just seeing the video that they take. They have their own video of a lot of these prospects. And
yeah, I mean, those guys like Joe Doyle, Jeff Ponce, Matt Thompson, all those guys, like they've got more video than I think like MLB.com does on these guys. Yeah. And certainly more video than ESPN does, and those sites come to them and use that video because they got some of the best video out there. So.
Yeah, they got boots on the ground, getting that footage themselves, and yeah, they do tremendous work. And hopefully, people don't jack their videos, steal them.
Yeah, I saw somebody did that recently. That's pretty weak.
Yeah, because, again, those guys actually are putting in the man hours, and that's a long, hard road to get eyes and film on all those players.
There's a huge difference between jacking someone's video who was at the game, filming it themselves, versus just taking something from an MILB TV feed and then tweeting that out. Like, everyone has access to that. It's a lot of work. I could go to more games than I do, and I don't because of how much work it is. And so if you're going to take the time to go to those games, and I mean it's not only just your your hours, but I mean, if you have a significant other, I mean, you're putting your work first, and you should be credited for that.
Yeah, all those guys at Prospects Live, and also our buddy Chris Blessing from Baseball HQ. I mean, those guys just put in a ton of time, and it's a sacrifice to hit the road and see all those games and see all those players, and they should be definitely credited for their great work. James, let's get into all these questions. We got a ton here. Probably not any room to add more, but if you're watching live, you could chime in. We could try to get to it. But Cam Anderson wanted a status update on Brennan Davis. What do you got for us?
Yeah, man, he's struggling at AA right now. That can happen, but I mean, he's walking a ton and he's striking out like way more than he ever has. So, obviously, I think he's probably being patient, maybe to a fault, but for him to be hitting 231 with an ISO under 100 and still be a league average hitter, I mean, that's an accomplishment, but he's still kind of in that tier, that sort of big tier after the top like 4 or 5 guys, but he would be a little bit lower in that tier. If I was updating the rankings today, he'd probably be more around like 10, 11, 12, something like that.
And then Cam also wanted to know which team's draft tastes align with yours, and or which team's draft taste run against what you typically like. So that's kind of more of a general question for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my general draft taste is that I'm looking for guys that can be two-way players on offense. Like I don't like taking guys who are probably going to end up at DH or left field. I want ideally guys that could play somewhere up the middle and then have a chance to provide value with the bat. And I don't like taking low upside college hitters. I mean, I think the draft is a chance to really go hunting for some high upside players, and you should be able to develop, your utility players and your low level starters without using high draft pick capital on those guys. And then I like taking prep arms at a certain point, but I wouldn't be a team that was ever taking a prep arm in the first round. And I certainly wouldn't be taking a prep catcher in the first round. So those are kind of my general tastes. And I think like the Diamondbacks, the Cleveland, the Padres, the Rays, the Blue Jays, those are 5 teams that came to mind that I really kind of in lockstep with how they approach the draft. And I typically, maybe I don't love each guy they go after, but they go after the type of guys that I would be going after. The teams that don't do things the way I would do them, it's tough because it changes so much. It changes from draft to draft, like what a team might be doing or who might be running the show, and in terms of the draft board and everything for that team. But I don't generally love what the White Sox do. Like taking Jared Kelly where they did last year, like I wouldn't have wanted any part of that. I mean, the Orioles, I think, just in last year's draft, probably not what I would have done. I wouldn't have used the number 2 pick on Kierstead. Obviously, it's sad the way things have unfolded with him just medically, but I mean, I think Austin Martin's there. You got to take Austin Martin there. And then I know that they saved money and signed a bunch of solid guys after Kierstead, but I wouldn't be a team that's going out of my way to pass on the best player available just to try to get these deals done. Like I would want to do everything I could to kind of get the guy that could be a 4, 5, 6 win player annually, and then try to fill in around that guy. So, those are a few examples.
Nice. Yeah, I get that you kind of want to have maybe you want to spread some of that signing bonus money around and have a better class than just the top guy at the head of that grouping of draftees. But I'm with you. Like, it seems like it's like 5D chess, like overthinking it a little bit. You just want to get the best player, get them locked up. And passing on more talented players so that you can maybe sign somebody else overslot a little later just seems like the wrong way to go.
And I mean, I think it makes sense if the guy that you're signing for less is actually your top guy. Like, I think that was like the case when like the Astros went under slot to get Carlos Correa. I think they did that because Carlos Correa was basically the guy they wanted, or one of the guys that they had in that tier. And maybe that was the case with Kierstead. Like, maybe he was the top guy for them. But just in general, like, I'm not taking a lesser player a guy that I think is definitely a lesser player, just to save money.
Absolutely. Dan Corrado, longtime friend of the show. He's likely to have the first overall pick in his first-year player draft. He wants to know if there are any international guys who will be obvious high picks next year.
Yeah, I mean, Roderick Arias is a middle infielder who the Yankees are going to sign, and he's probably going to be in my top 10 for first-year player draft rankings. But I wouldn't take him over. I wouldn't take him over Khalil Watson. I wouldn't take him over Marcelo Mayer. So, I mean, if you have a top 2 pick, I would be keeping it within the draft. I think Roderick Arias and Jordan Lawler is pretty close. So at pick 3, I think you could maybe think about it, but it's not a great year to have the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick. But I think Khalil Watson and Marcelo Mayer is that's where you got to go if you have one of those picks.
Chris Valenci was also asking about the first-year player draft rankings for next year. When will they be out? I know you have a ton you're working on already, but do you have an idea when those will be out, and how would you rank the top shortstops and pitchers, and if any international guys will be worth a top 10 first-year player draft pick?
Yeah, so at this stage, Arias would be a top 10 guy on the international side. I rank the shortstops, Khalil Watson, Marcelo Mayer. It's kind of 1A, 1B. I think Watson's got the higher fantasy ceiling, and so I give him the slight edge, but Meyer's probably the safer guy. Jordan Lawler would be 3rd among the shortstops. Brady House would be 4th. I mean, Henry Davis would be in my top 5. Peyton Stovall would be in my top 10. And then the Vandy guys, Leiter, Rocker, plus Gavin Williams from East Carolina. That's probably your top 10 right there.
Nice. Simon Martin says Gabrielle Moreno's AA numbers are outrageous for a 21-year-old, and he wants to know how many catchers rank ahead of him, Gabrielle Moreno, in Dynasty.
Yeah, I assumed he was asking like in the entire Dynasty universe, so not just prospects. If we're just talking prospects, Rutschman. And I would still take Francisco Alvarez over Moreno. Moreno's been awesome. I mean, he's closer to top 50 than top 100. So, I mean, he might even be inside the top 50 on the next update. Will Smith, JT Realmuto, Sal Perez. I'm probably still taking all 3 of those guys over Moreno. I mean, there's, the catching prospects are so fickle. It's a big adjustment every time you move up a rung, and I think what he's doing at AA is just really impressive. I mean, one of the, if not the most impressive, one of the most impressive minor league seasons so far this year for any prospect. But I think when you're talking about catcher, there's a lot to be said for just having that really, really steady guy who's already in the majors, who you can count on year in, year out. So I think Will Smith, Realmuto, Sal Perez, I'd still take those 3 over all the prospects other than Rutschman. I mean, if you're in a full-on rebuild, maybe you take Francisco Alvarez over Perez or something like that. Tyler Soderstrom's an interesting one because he might not be a catcher. Soderstrom versus Moreno, I think, is a pretty good debate. And Alvarez is kind of in that mix. I think Alvarez is just a notch above, just given his track record and how dominant he's been. But Moreno definitely a top 10 catcher for Dynasty. And I can't say enough about how impressive he's been this year.
Very nice. Now, Michael Thurlow, he needs some good vibes out there, James. It's been a rough year for him as a Braves fan. Wants you to talk up some Atlanta prospects, if you would, please.
Well, Michael Harris has been awesome. I think he's been as good as advertised at high A. He's their best prospect at this point, and I don't have a ton of other positive things to say. I was too low on Kyle Muller and Tucker Davidson, and they both have been overperforming my expectations so far this year in the majors, albeit in very small samples. So that's a nice development. The fact that you got two young pitchers who are showing a little promise at the big league level. We also had a question from Chase Von Bockel about Spencer Strider, who's probably the top pop-up prospect in Atlanta's system, and he's been incredibly impressive. I mean, he's probably the biggest riser in that system. He's climbed 3 levels already. There was a good article about him on Fangraphs about a week ago where he was talking about his pitch mix and the advanced analytics that he goes into. And so Strider, I mean, I think he's got a shot to be a top 100 prospect by the end of the year. I mean, the fact that he's climbed 3 levels already. He had Tommy John surgery when he was in college at Clemson, so that's out of the way, and it seems like he's come back better than ever from that. So Strider's a nice guy to keep an eye on if you're an Atlanta fan, but Michael Harris is definitely the top guy there. And Christian Pache and Drew Waters, they're going to be big leaguers. I'm lower on both of them than I've been on either of them in a long time. So down arrows next to them, big up arrow next to Michael Harris.
Yeah, I don't mean to pile on Atlanta fans, but Drew Waters, man, the 682 OPS. I was pretty excited about him a couple of years ago, and he was kind of at the same level. He was at AAA, or he had reached that level at least. And then the lost minor league season, that may have really hurt him, just not getting those live reps. And just weird to see a guy who was already at that level just after 2 years just kind of still be stuck there when he has quite a bit of talent and pedigree. So, souring on Waters quite a bit.
Sometimes it's just that next level. Like,
it's hard.
We see guys hit a wall when they get to AA. I mean, I hope that's not a long-lasting thing with like Brennan Davis, but like the jump from AA or from high to AA is a huge one. The jump from AA to AAA is a huge one. You might be seeing nastier stuff. Like the best breaking ball and like the best fastball you see at AA might be better than the best breaking ball and the best fastball you see at AAA. But at AAA, you just have a ton of guys who know how to set you up and know how to take advantage of guys that have weaknesses in their game. And so it can be a rude awakening. And it just hasn't gone well for Waters above AA. And I mean, he's still really talented. He's still got a really high ceiling, and he's too young to give up on, but it's still a work in progress there.
By the way, I showed this comment if you're watching us on YouTube or live on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But Matt Thompson chimed in and said, I'm putting it back up, that ESPN's using their video, Prospects Live, this year for the draft. So that's awesome. Congrats to them. Great to see hard work and tremendous work be recognized like that. At AGE Baseball News wants to know if he should snatch up Jordan Walker and whether we're concerned about Michael Harris in OBP leagues.
Well, Walker is I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Like he's not a pop-up guy because he was a top 300 guy coming into the year, but nobody has shot up more this year probably than Jordan Walker. Like he's going to be an easy top 50 guy on the next update. And I mean, if you're in if you're in the mode of just hunting upside and you just kind of want to have the next big thing, I mean, Walker just looks like an absolute stud, and he's, it's rare that these big kind of corner guys end up getting into the top 10, top 5. It's usually shortstops and center fielders and that type of thing. But Walker's got that type of upside. I mean, he could be a top 10 prospect by the end of the year, and he could be a top 30 prospect on the next update. So absolutely, Walker, if he's out there and you're in a shallower league where he's available, definitely jump on that. Michael Harris, I think people maybe over analyze a guy's walk rate. If you're a 20-year-old and you're at high A and you're doing a ton of damage and you're hitting for a really high average and you're not striking out a lot, if you're not walking a lot, maybe it's just like, why would Michael Harris be trying to take walks when he's hitting like 320? I think people can overanalyze that a little bit. At the same time, I mean, he's obviously better in average leagues than OBP leagues. Maybe he ends up being like Tim Anderson in the center field. Like that could be his ceiling. And like a guy that's that good is always going to have value, even in an OBP league, even if he's not walking a lot. But I mean, I don't think the book has been written on Michael Harris in terms of what his OBP upside is. I think as he gets more reps and as he gets more comfortable, you could see his walk rate spike a little bit, especially if he really kind of just becomes a stud. The walk rate's just going to rise by itself because pitchers are going to be kind of wary about giving him stuff to hit. So, he's definitely not as valuable in OBP leagues than average leagues, but I don't think you should be worried about him at all.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Before we move on, though, to more of your Twitter questions, let's first throw to a word from our sponsors. And we are back on the RotoWire Prospect Podcast, sponsored by WynnBET. Clay Link here with RotoWire.com's lead prospect analyst, James Anderson, answering your Twitter questions today. A mailbag show. John Hollingshed wants to know about Angel Martinez. Any update on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it all. 19-year-old switch hitter at low A. And, I mean, he's walking. He's not striking out a ton. He's hitting for average. He's hitting for power. He's stealing bases. Really can't say enough good things about Martinez. I mean, I think we're probably looking at a season where he spends another couple weeks at low A, spends the second half of the year at high A, that type of thing. And, I mean, he's going to continue to climb. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 50 guy sooner than later.
Artur Dominguez wants to know our thoughts on Edward Cabrera for 2021 and beyond. I don't really have many yet, but James, I bet you do.
I mean, I kind of got terrified by his injury situation dating back to last summer when he was kind of shut down with an arm injury, and then he comes into this year and he's shut down with a different arm injury, but probably a related arm injury. And so I just, I red flag city, and I just kind of was like, look, I think the wise move is to get out if you can here. If you can still cash him out as a top 100 prospect, I would do it because it looks like it's heading in the wrong direction. But he's proven me wrong so far on this rehab assignment. He's been awesome and has built up to 6 innings. So he's definitely trending up. He would be in the top 100 if I did the update right now, but I wouldn't say that we're out of the woods on the arm issue yet. I mean, he's still one of the hardest throwers in the minors, and that coupled with the recent injury track record, those are the two biggest indicators of a guy that might need Tommy John surgery. So Cabrera's trending up, but I think this might still be a decent time to trade him. But that said, like, we could see him in the majors this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he made a big league start this year before Sixto Sanchez makes his next big league start.
Where's he at right now? Pensacola, Double A. So looks like he went 6 innings.
Yeah, he's on a rehab assignment though. I mean, he would be at AAA if he had kind of completed that rehab assignment, and then I think maybe few starts, if he stays healthy, they might just bring him up because I'm sure they're thinking the same thing I am. Like, who knows how much time we have with this guy being healthy. So they've already debuted like 5 pitching prospects this year in their rotation. So I don't see why Edward Cabrera would have to wait too long at AAA.
Now, Hose wants to know, that's Hoze, not another spelling of Hose. Wants to know if Baltimore third baseman Toby Welk could be a big riser. Do we have James? Oh, he's muted.
I muted myself because someone was drag racing in an adjacent street, and it's super humid, and I have the windows open. But yeah, Toby Welk. This one, it's kind of looking iffy in terms of whether I would buy in. He got the bump from high A to double A. He's 24 years old, and it seems like a flash in the pan to me. I mean, this is a guy that wasn't really on too many radars coming into the year. He's a 24-year-old who opened the year at high A, and I mean, he's been great at double A, but it's been 7 games. So guy that's kind of on the watch list realm, but I really wouldn't get too excited until he gets to AAA and keeps this up because, again, he is 24. He's listed at 6'2", 205, so he's going to have to hit, and definitely a pop-up guy, but probably not enough yet to really buy in.
Sounds like the cops are on the drag racers' heels there, James.
Yeah, that's one thing follows another. I'm sure one of these fighter jets is going to fly over here in a second.
I actually came into the office because there was just, I don't know what they were doing below me at my house today, but they were drilling or sawing something. It stopped, but I was like, if that happens during the pod, that'd be pretty rough because it was very loud. That was not so bad, that little interruption. Michael Thomas wanted an update on Aj Vukovich. Do you have anything for us on Vukovich's end?
Yeah, I guess cautiously optimistic about how he's doing at low A. I was lower on him going into the draft just because he's massive, like 6'5", and he even like looks bigger than that. I mean, he's just a massive dude, and
19 years old.
Yeah, he's 19 years old. Like, I'm usually going to just kind of fade a guy with that type of body until he gives me a reason not to. And yeah, he's striking out a decent amount, but he's producing, and so far so good. I think I'd be pumping the brakes. I wouldn't be getting too excited just yet, but if he does this after a promotion to high A, then I think he could get pretty excited, and he'll probably get that shot later in the year.
Wisconsin guy, huh? East Troy, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Attaboy. Very nice. Now, Russell W. wanted to know about Toronto shortstop Kevin Smith. Boring name, but is he a boring player, James?
Yeah, so Smith got as high as number 72 overall on the top 400 back in 2018. And then he just had a disaster of a 2019 and fell off the rankings completely. And it's not dissimilar, I guess, from like the Kansas City guys like Nick Prado and MJ Melendez, where just a horrible 2019 led to them falling off. We didn't see him at all really in 2020, so you don't really know, like, is this guy getting better? We have no real clue. And then he shows up this year and he's really producing at AAA. The hard hit data is not that great on Kevin Smith at AAA, but he's walking a decent amount. I mean, probably in that org, he's going to be capped as like a utility guy because they just have so many options at the positions he plays. But, he could be trade bait at the deadline this year. I think you could probably get something decent for him, just given how close he is to the majors. And if he were to be traded to more of a rebuilding club, and were to get an opportunity, I think he'd be interesting, especially in OBP leagues. He's got a little bit of power, a little bit of speed.
Yeah, he's got 11 homers and 10 bags already in 44 games at AAA this year. Only caught once on the base paths. Kevin Smith, not Kevin with an A, by the way, so you don't get confused and pick up the catcher who's, I don't even know if he's in baseball anymore. But
yeah, and he's there's another Kevin Smith spelled his way too, and this is the Kevin Smith who was born in '96.
Yeah, 24 years old. I know a certain team in the Midwest that could use a shortstop. But yeah, of course, in his current org, the question of where he will play, pretty prevalent. And
what would you guys be interested in trading for Miguel Rojas if you were running the Reds?
Probably not. I don't know how many years he's under control for. But I could see maybe trading a guy like Sonny for a Kevin Smith.
So you want Kevin Smith, but you don't want Miguel Rojas, who's like actually performed in the majors.
Hey, I need something to dream on.
Okay.
Let me look up how Miguel Rojas's contract situation. I know this is great podcasting and radio, but he's a free agent after this year, Miguel Rojas. I guess the Reds are competitive, so maybe that would work, but I wouldn't want to, give up much.
I bet Miguel Rojas would rank in the top 5 on the Reds position players in WAR this year.
Ouch. But yeah, that's maybe true. Now, Taylor wanted to know what you make of Tucker Bradley in the Royals system.
This one, I'm pretty confident this one is probably nothing. He's put up crazy numbers in the lower levels, but you can kind of figure it out for yourself if you look at the sample size and the BABIP and the fact that he's 23 and he's only played at low A and high A. Like the numbers look nice on the surface. I doubt there's much going on here, but we'll see. You can keep the name filed away, but I wouldn't go adding him.
Aaron Stoltenberg wants to know what you think the top 5 prospects will look like heading into 2023. That's a tough one.
Yeah, this is my favorite question that anyone asked. I love this question. So if I had to guess, I would say Noelvi Marte, Marco Luciano, Corbin Carroll, Jason Dominguez, and Elijah Green, who is a prep outfielder in Florida who will probably be the number 1 overall pick next year. Elijah Green, if you're in leagues with an unlimited player universe, I would just go add him right now. But all 4 of those, or all 5 of those guys, with the exception of Marco Luciano, have big time power and big time speed. And Luciano's got, the pedigree, track record, power potential to kind of overcome the lack of speed. So I'm guessing Corbin Carroll will still have his eligibility heading into 2023. I'm pretty confident that Marte and Luciano and Dominguez will, and obviously Green will, since he'll have just been drafted. But that'd be my best guess as to what the top 5 looks like.
Jason Dominguez made his pro debut in the week since we last talked, James. I saw it's just insane how some people are. Like, I saw he was off to a slow start for like 2 games. Somebody actually published that on some site.
He went 0 for 3 in his first game, so he's off to a slow start.
Yeah, that's just crazy, man. You got to cut the kid some slack. This guy's going to be under the microscope. He's 18 now. Can you imagine? This rise is going to be documented so closely, and the hype is going to be just otherworldly by the time he's on the verge. Now, where are we at here? Dennis Brandt, I believe. Yeah, he wanted to know how quickly Mick Abel can ascend to the majors based on his dominance thus far.
I don't think probably as quickly as Dennis would like me to say. If everything went absolutely perfectly from a performance and a health standpoint with Abel, you're maybe looking at an early 2023 debut. Like, at best, he's going to split this year between low A and high A. And then next year, maybe high A, double A, triple A, something like that. But I mean, it's just as likely to me that he blows out his arm prior to debuting than that he debuts before 2023. So, I just would tread carefully there. I mean, he's still a 19-year-old pitcher who throws really hard. So just be careful with how excited you get there.
Here's a good one from the Ulysses sect. Wanted us to grade these future SPs: Alek Manoah, Max Meyer, Shane Baz, George Kirby, Daniel Lynch. That's tough. Manoah's been a little disappointing. And I don't want to name drop who it was, but I was chatting with somebody in my DMs. Somebody wanted to maybe look to make a dynasty trade, and I suggested just offering, especially if you're in a win now mode, which this person was, and they were looking to add some pitching help, offering a guy like George Kirby for Zach Wheeler straight up, and that actually got the deal done. So I think I know Kirby's one of your top ranked pitching prospects, but you always make the point, just fade these guys generally if you can. Like if any of these guys turn out to be Zach Wheeler, you're over the moon about it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you're competing in any kind of dynasty league, you should trade any pitching prospect for a guy like Zach Wheeler, and not think twice about it. With these pitching prospects, I would rank them Manoah, Meyer, Baz, Kirby. That's kind of a tough one to order. I think Manoah is the clear top guy. Daniel Lynch is the clear bottom guy. And then I'd maybe go Meyer, Baz, Kirby, but those three, I would guess those three will be within 10 spots of each other on the next update. So you could ask me any day and I might give you a different order on Meyer, Baz, Kirby, but definitely Manoah first, definitely Lynch last.
Checking in on Baz, he took the hill 3 days ago, looked like 10 Ks, only 2 hits allowed over 5 scoreless against Jacksonville.
I don't think we have gotten to speak since I did this, but I got my stash on in Stake League with Baz.
Oh, no, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous now. That's a good
one. I knew I had to act fast with
you get him as $0?
I think I was
traveling Friday morning, so I just set my lineup. I didn't really look at what everybody else did, but okay, yeah, that's a nice one, man. I do think we probably see him, especially with Glass now. Who knows?
Yeah, and the way these pitching prospects are performing this year, I mean, he'll probably just push me over the edge, right? He's gonna just set the world on fire as soon as he gets up.
Well, that's been the case with all the prospects, pitching or hitting. Franco's gone cold again. It's a tough game, and this has been a year that's offered a painful reminder that not everybody is a superstar right away, like the Acuñas and the Bo Bichette's of the world. That Blue Jays offense, by the way, is just unreal. If you just drafted Blue Jays this year, you would have been great shape.
You know how nasty that Blue Jays offense is that I benched Yusei Kikuchi this week.
Ooh,
in most of my leagues. And when you bench a guy that good against an offense, look out.
Borderline ace. I mean, that's crazy. David Scott, don't want to leave anybody out here, so we'll get to all these. David Scott wanted to know who we're most excited to see in action now that rookie ball has started.
Well, Dominguez, Edbert Perez. Edbert Perez on his MILB page says he's on the 60-day IL, which I couldn't really dig anything up to get any details on that. There's a video on the Brewers player developmental account of him hitting a homer a week ago. So maybe he just recently got hurt or something. But if Edbert Perez were healthy for the Brewers, he'd be up there. And then Wilman Diaz of the Dodgers, those would probably be my top 3, just because they're all international guys that we've never seen play stateside. And most of the best recent draftees were assigned to low A. Isaiah Green, probably the best guy that wasn't assigned to low A. But those would be the guys that I'm most excited to see.
That's real quick. Did you get a chance to check out the futures game rosters? And they're having that the same day as the draft, right? Day one of the draft, anyway. That's super.
Honestly, no. I've just been so wrapped up in draft getting ready for that draft.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw Nick Lodolo was on there, Bobby Witt. So it should be a fun game.
They better not. This better not become an annual thing where they do the draft at the All-Star break, because it's just so stupid on so many levels.
It's brutal. But yeah, I know you're putting in a lot of work so that we'll have great coverage of that. Now let's look here. Jeff Williamson wanted to know our thoughts, or your thoughts, James, on Matt Wallner. Matt Wallner's upside and possible role with the Twins.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a classic right field profile, huge power, good arm, strikes out too much. So maybe he can be one of those, hits 240 and hits like 30 homers. Maybe he could be that type of guy for them in right field. But even that, I think, would be a pretty solid outcome. Could just be one of those guys who just doesn't hit enough to get to that power in games. But he's been performing at high A. I think he's on the IL right now with a wrist sprain. But, so far so good in terms of just the stats you'll see on like the back of a baseball card. But, I mean, the strikeout rate, 38%. Small sample, but that obviously needs to come down for a 23-year-old at high A.
Bored and Lazy on Twitter, who I know is a big fan of Super Mega Baseball, the series.
Nice.
Wanted to know your thoughts on O'Neal Cruz. He seems like he's been a riser, right?
Yeah, he will be a pretty big riser on the next update for sure.
Just a big man, big specimen. 6'7".
He just keeps hitting, and I still have my doubts about whether he can do this against big league pitching, but hasn't really reached a level yet that he couldn't handle. And he's still 22. He's at AA, which is fine, especially for a guy that's as big as he is. And he was never going to be a guy that was going to fly through the system and get to the majors at like 21 or even 22. So I don't really hold his age against him. And, so far so good. He's got 10 bags too. Only been thrown out twice. And given how long he is and how big his wingspan is, he could be pretty good at stealing bases. So very good start of the year for Cruz. Maybe now is a good time to trade him. But I mean, the ceiling's really high.
Yeah, I know you like what you've seen from the Pirates and their new regime and how they've handled things and kind of turned that organization around. And maybe they deserve some credit for the continued development of O'Neal Cruz, because I thought, just too long of levers, too big of a strike zone. Just it would be hard for this guy to make enough contact and hold up. I mean, these big lumbering guys, it's hard to hold up for a full season. But
I'll give Cruz credit. Like, he's got one of the shorter swings that is probably humanly possible at that height. He's good at keeping his hands in and making quick contact. So maybe he pulls it off. It's going to be a tough profile to pull off.
Random question, James, but do you know if there are any batting cages here in Madison, Wisconsin? We should go to the cages sometimes. For a little dose of humble pie for myself.
Yeah, Vitense has them.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to go take some cuts. Last time I did, it was just, it was a nice old slice of humble pie. The last time I took cuts in the cages, I think I had to find like the 55 mile an hour one. That they had like, up to like 75 and then like 65, 55. And then I think there's like a 45. I didn't want to get into the 45 because I didn't want to just be the only adult hitting in the 45. But, 55 is where I had to be just from a bat speed standpoint. I just couldn't get around on 65. I remember I went, with my brother maybe 5 years ago, maybe at like a little putt place or something. We took some cuts, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then it was just like, that clip of that one guy in the cage where it's like swinging, he's behind every pitch. You probably seen that clip on Twitter somewhere, and that's basically what I was. I could not even really make contact.
To the dads out there that might be listening, or the moms, like, if you got a young kid who's into baseball and you want to have him get good in a hurry, take him to the cages. That like, when I was like 10 or 11, my dad took me to the cages like a few weeks in a row, and I just got so much better in such a short amount of time just by
the reps, man.
The reps, and like, if you see the velocity at that level like enough, you'll eventually be able to time it and catch up to it. And so I mean, definitely hit the cages up this summer if you've got a young child who's into baseball.
Yeah, I wanted to just I want to go to our spot here in Madison that has the wiffle ball.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
I want to do that, but I also just want to go enough to where I can at least make contact here and there, because I can't be, grown man not being able to take some cuts and put bat to ball. Real quick here, we'll do rapid fire with these comments here. Jaron Duran, Julio Rodriguez, Nino wanted to know, do we expect a call up? I'd say Julio Rodriguez, that's pretty much off the table for this year. He did get bumped up to AA, didn't he? But Duran, do you expect to see him pretty soon?
I kind of think it's after the Olympics. So probably maybe, September, something like that. It seems like they want him and Casas to do the Olympics, but I mean, it's not a good time to be stashing. I mean, Jared Kelenic, and then after that, like, Luis Patino might be the second best stash behind Kelenic, and he's no longer prospect eligible. I think if the Mariners had any interest in Julio Rodriguez playing in the majors this year, he doesn't open at high A. So it's really unfortunate, but and then
they've made it so obvious. They've told us what they're going to
do. They told us exactly how they were going to manipulate these guys' service time, and they had it on tape, and they got busted, but they just did everything they said they were going to do.
They didn't force their hand at all. They just went ahead and did it anyway.
I will say, actually, Cal Raleigh, who I think we mentioned last week, he's a worthwhile stash in 2 catcher leagues.
I remember you mentioned Cal Raleigh. Now, Ryan Roof, our buddy who runs the closer grid here at RotoWire, he's a Cleveland guy, wanted to know if Xavier Curry's on your radar. Any chance he debuts in the top 400 this season?
Yeah, I looked into him prior to the last update. Just didn't think there was quite enough there to bump him in. Cleveland, that's obviously a great org for pitching prospects. I would say yes, he probably does hop onto the top 400 as long as he stays healthy. I know there's some kind of relief concerns there, but he might be kind of putting those on hold for now. So yeah, definitely a nice start to the year for him.
Awesome, man. I think that covers everything then. We got through a lot of Twitter questions. Thanks to everybody who chimed in and provided some great questions for the show today. Anything else on your mind before we pick our walk-up songs, James?
Just actually one more name. This guy someone sent me a DM about Oscar Gonzalez with Cleveland. I don't know if he wanted it on the pod or not, but Gonzalez used to be a favorite of mine. He was ranked for most of 2018 and some of 2019. He's been unpicked in the Rule 5 draft, I think, a couple times now, but he's just tearing up AA. He's still just 23. He's always going to be kind of a aggressive hitter who's not going to walk a ton, but his hard hit rate right now on our site is like 40%, which is awesome for someone at AA. And so Oscar Gonzalez is a guy to go at in your deeper leagues.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all the insight as always. Can't wait to follow along with all the content you've produced for the draft, and we'll have a lot of this going up. Well, every note going up live in real time after the selection is made. So definitely check out rotowire.com/try for a 10-day trial. James, for my walk-up song this week, I know I said a few weeks ago that I wasn't going to try to get too commercial with it, but I can't help myself with this one. When I was driving, I had actually, not the official song, but the Lil Wayne squad up freestyle over Nappy Roots' Aw Nah.
Oh, wow.
I'll probably just go with the Aw Nah instrumental if I can. But man, that's a great beat, and yeah, kind of commercial, but you know what? Commercial's fine. You know.
It's not commercial in a bad way.
No.
It's commercial in a good way.
Yeah, commercial in a bad way. You know when you see it.
Like it's not a DJ Khaled track.
Yeah, like it's like Snoop and Pharrell. Like you'll just know when you see it. And Nappy Roots, kind of got to that point, but that's actually a really good beat. And if you haven't heard the Lil Wayne squad up freestyle over that, check it out because Wheezy Wee, as always, kills it. And that's a good one. I think it's a good walk-up song just given how it starts. So give me On Nah. What you got this week?
I'm going to go with my second Wu-Tang song of this playlist. And
surprisingly,
it's not
second.
Yeah. It's actually, again, it's not a Wu-Tang as a group song, but it's a Method Man track off of his second album, Judgment Day, and Dangerous Ground will be my submission.
I remember when I got to Cal 2000 Judgment Day, I was pretty disappointed, but I need to give it another chance, I think.
It's not great. It's not a deep album. But it's got there's like 3 or 4 really good tracks on there, and then the rest is just trash. But
I was a big Method Man guy, and I know I kind of turned on him, but I apologized.
You guys have made up.
We've made up. I think it was that Drop the Mic show on TBS that kind of led to a little beef between us for a short period.
You can't
squash the beef.
Yeah, you can't hold it against a guy who's just trying to get a paycheck, Oh,
I know. I don't blame him one bit, but I just, I guess I still was holding Judgment Day a little bit against him because I was, after Tikal, I thought he was about to take off, and then he just kind of fizzled. I mean, not completely. The Rockwilder was great, and what was that album called with Redman?
Blackout.
Blackout. That's what it was. But he just never recaptured those same heights after the disappointment of Judgment Day. Well, James, anything else you want to mention before we sign off today?
No, I am hoping to get I'm not gonna have a first year player draft top 100 ready anytime soon, but I should have a top 40, top 50, something like that, that can go up on the site before the draft. And then, it's gonna be wild these next couple weeks. 4th of July and the Vegas trip and the draft and everything, but so I'm gonna take my time before releasing that big top 400 update after the draft because I just don't want to shortchange people on that. But that should be coming a little bit after the draft, maybe like 3rd week of July, something like that.
Well, we appreciate the insights. You all out there, be good to yourselves, and hope you'll join us next week on the RotoWire Prospect Podcast, sponsored by WinBet.